everyone, and welcome back to my channel, and we are somehow picking our TBR for November. I'm really not sure where October went, but she went, I'm here and I'm gone and bye. So yeah, we're already picking for November. Like we did in October, I'm going to be using the prompts for my TBR jar, but I'm going to be picking exclusively from my fall TBR. I mean, semi-exclusively. If there's absolutely nothing in that fits the prompt, I do try to look outside of that, but I try really hard to stick to the fall TBR because there's so many on that list. So we're going to start off with 7, and then of course I have the 3 that I typically add on that I don't pick from the jar. So let's get into our first prompt. Ooh, this is a long one now. A book I anticipate will be a God tier or Roman Empire book. There's a lot of pressure riding on this because the last time I got this, I actually did in fact pick one that ended up being something that I absolutely adore. I've listened to the audiobook for it twice this year already. I bought a ton of special editions, so a lot of pressure on that for this one to actually fit the prompt. Okay, so normally my God tier books tend to be fantasy books. There's something about fantasy books, like a really, really well done one that just hits that mark for me, and it's really hard to get like romance books and stuff into that because I don't know why, but it's like romance book very rarely hit that category. So I picked a fantasy book. I actually don't even have options. I have one that I think will really easily hit it, and that's because it's by Rachel Killig. And I already have a duology in my God tier list that's by Rachel Killig. So this, I already had high hopes for it. Now I have even higher hopes. So nervous. But this is obviously a gothic fantasy about a woman named Sybil, and she is what they call a diviner. She's been working as a diviner for 9 years. She's very, very close to being done with this, and she really wants to be, because in order to be a diviner, they pretty much essentially have to drown themselves to get these visions. It's a very painful process, obviously. So she gets these unearthly visions from things called omens, and she can predict terrible things before they occur. So everybody across the region comes to these diviners to sort of see what's going on. So they're nearing the end of their service, and a mysterious knight arrives at the cathedral. He is rude, heretical, and devilishly handsome, and he has absolutely no respect for Sybil's vision, so they don't get along. But Sybil's fellow diviners start vanishing one by one, so she has little choice but to seek his help in finding them. As much as she'd rather avoid Roderick's dark eyes and sharp tongue, only a heretic can defeat a god. So, yeah, like I said, really high hopes for this. This is the absolutely stunning Fairy Loot edition, and I'm obsessed with this. Like, when I saw it in the box, I kind of squealed a little because it's beautiful. So I've been avoiding this book, honestly, because I don't want it to disappoint, but I've heard great things from everybody that loves her other series, so I'm hopeful that it'll live up to the hype that I've given it. So moving on to prompt number 2. Let's see what this one is. A historical fiction. Ooh, I don't know if I have any historical fictions in my fall TBR. Okay, I know that I said I normally will branch into another category if it's not my fall TBR, but I really don't want to read a historical fiction in fall. Like, that's just not the vibe, so I'm gonna cheat and change my rules. We're gonna pick another prompt. Yeah. A book with a cover I hate. Oh boy. Come on. I didn't think I had this in here twice. I picked this last month. Great. Okay. There's not a lot of covers that I hate in my fall TBR. Okay. We're gonna pick The Rays. This was actually sent to me, so I feel bad picking this one. But for me, personally, aesthetically, I'm not a huge fan of covers with real people on them, that aren't cartoony looking. So I'm gonna pick this one. Like I said, I feel a little bad doing that since it was sent to me, and I'm super excited to read it. I just don't like the cover necessarily. And this is about a CEO of this billionaire company, and they just recently got this job. Their former CEO turned up, I don't even think turned up dead. I think it was yeah, her skull was cracked and her luscious hair was still burnt to a crisp. So the previous CEO ended up dead and probably murdered and burned. So it's about this person stepping into this new role and then also looking into this previous CEO's death. And it says, I keep going through old emails and documents and meeting familiar faces who say I can trust them to keep our company alive and preserve Darcy's legacy, but I have this tingling sensation that maybe Darcy wasn't who I thought she was, and that there are secrets buried in my company's closet, secrets someone would kill to keep quiet. So, a bit of like a corporate intrigue, which I don't read a lot of in my thrillers, so I'm excited for that vibe. Like I said, really excited to read the book. Very, very grateful that it was sent to me, just not my personal style of cover. So, moving past that. Prompt number 3. We have a book with flowers on the cover. See, this one I can do very easily. Okay, so I was trying to pick a romance book, but I don't have any romance books with flowers on the cover for fall, so that's kind of surprising. Like, plenty of fall leaves, but those aren't technically flowers. So we're picking another fantasy book, and it's between The Forest Where the Phoenix Sleeps, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, and Phantasma. I don't even know which one I'm leaning towards. Some of these are really big. This one's a small one, so like I'm kind of leaning towards that, if I'm being completely honest, because small is nice. This is also like a gothic fantasy, but I've had this one on my TBR for quite a while. I guess they've both been 2 years, but this starts another series, and I don't know if I wanted to start another series, but so does this. Okay. We're gonna let Horton pick again because it's just easier when the dog picks. Horton! Horty! Come pick a book, bud. Which one? Okay, of course. Of course we went for one of the series ones. Thank you, bud. Okay, so Horton picked The Forest Where the Phoenix Sleeps. And this is about a barista named Nell who accidentally incinerates someone. Oops. It says, now this tale began in a fantastic faraway land, or Nell were perhaps a wizard. Such a mishap might have made some kind of sense, but this is not a wondrous fantasy world. This is a real life, and Nell just wanted to go home and eat macaroni. As Nell stares upon the smoldering corpse, she realizes something with horrifying certainty. She's magic, and not the cute, pulling a rabbit from her hat kind of magic. Unfortunately, Nell's little outburst, she suffers a mortal injury. Fortunately, Durag, a rugged and magical outcast, witnessed the entire incident. To save Nell's lives, he whisks her away to a world where magic reigns. However, as so often is the case with magic, it comes at a price. In this harsh world, the entities that lurk in the darkest corner of Nell's nightmare await her in hungry anticipation. As Nell and Durag vanquish monsters and ghouls, their affections for one another take root. Just when this treacherous tale is beginning to look like a love story, Durag is captured by a wretched cadaverous queen. Now it's up to Nell to save him. Oh, good. So she has to save him with this magic that she had absolutely no idea that she had in a world that she absolutely didn't know existed. That's a great premise for a fantasy book. Is it sometimes the premise for a lot of them? Yes, but when it's done right, I eat it up. So I'm very, very excited about this. I've heard great things. This is actually by an indie author, so that makes me even more excited. I love supporting indie authors when I get the chance. So as much as I didn't want to start a new series, I am very, very intrigued by this because the premise sounds kind of fun, kind of cute too, in a weird way. I don't know how to explain my thought process on that, but it sounds like it could be cute. So, picking prompt number 4. All right, we're just throwing prompts on the floor. A book that matches my outfit. Okay. So I have like this brown cardigan on the top, and I'm cheating. I'm wearing purple sweatpants because it's cold and it's fall, and I love comfy things in the fall, so don't judge me for that. But, so brown or purple. I think I could do that. Okay, so we're gonna cheat. Not cheat, this is all my fall TBR. It's just not one of my physical books that I own yet, and it's Nightshade. So there's the cover, and it fits perfectly because it's all like dark browns. There's some purple flowers in here, so we're going with Nightshade. It also gives me an excuse to go buy Nightshade because I told myself that I'm not allowed to buy any more books until the new year unless I plan on reading them very, very soon. Not the, oh, I might get to it because it's on my fall TBR, but I have like 60 books on my fall TBR, so I might not get till next year. So this means I'll actually get to it. And I'm trying to find the premise for you guys because I don't quite remember what it was. This is also starting a series, so that's not great, but the rest of the series isn't out, so there's that at least. And it's only a duology. So this is about a young woman named Ophelia Winters who is accepting a scholarship at a prestigious Scottish university to prove that her parents' death was the fault of Kane Green, an American aviation tycoon. Her plan is simple: to keep her grades up and her head down. The last thing she wants is to wind up in a mafia war or step on the toes of royalty. Her plan gets off to a rocky start when the mysterious man that almost kills her on her first day turns out to be Kane's eldest son. As far as she's concerned, Alex is a younger version of his billionaire father, a monster hiding beneath a beautiful facade. Loneliness has been Ophelia's only dependable companion for years, but when anonymous threats and mysterious occurrences start to haunt her time at Sorrow Song, she wonders if she can really thrive there on her own. Between being paired together for a project and ending up as each other's alibi for a murder, avoiding Alex becomes increasingly impossible. She begins to fall for the soft heart that hides behind his hard exterior. Tormented by the malicious stalker and growing closer to Alex, Ophelia's desperation for revenge wavers for the first time. Can she really bring herself to pull the trigger on Kane now that she knows the family? It'll split into two. So, that sounds great. I love an academic setting. I think that sounds like it's going to be maybe like a little bit of rivals or enemies to lovers. We got some revenge plans in there, which are always fun. I've heard incredible things about this one as well, which is why it's on the TBR. So, very excited that I was able to pick it. Prompt number 5. Well, that one just flew out, so we're going to pick that one. Book in a duology. I just picked a book in a duology. Darn it! So as far as I'm aware, I have 2 options for this. I think Phantasma is technically, there's only 2 right now, but I do believe a 3rd one's coming out, so I feel like that would be cheating. So first we have A Ballad of Phantoms and Hope. This is the 2nd book to... I already forget what it was called. The Fabric of Our Souls, which I think people said you don't need to read before reading this one, but like I feel like you do. Anyway, this is like a gothic dark romance, and then you have the X-Hex, which is just a cutesy fall witchy romance. And I'm not really sure which one I'm feeling. I think we're gonna go with this one, mainly because the first one in this was kind of a disappointment for me. Honestly, the only reason I'm keeping them is because I adore the cover. The other cover obviously doesn't look like this, but like it's indie art that the author did herself, and they're beautiful books. I just didn't really like the way that it was written, so I'm nervous to read that one, so we're just gonna keep putting that off for a little bit. So we're gonna pick the X-Hex. The 2nd book in this is the Kiss Curse, which I also have. This one is about a young woman named Vivian who has a broken heart and decides that she's going to put a curse on her now ex-boyfriend. She didn't think that it was really going to work, but of course, 9 years later, when her ex Rise comes back into town, they end up realizing that this little funny curse kind of took effect, and they didn't expect it to. So he's now, or the town actually, is under attack from murderers, wind-up toys, a pissed-off ghost, and a talking cat with some interesting things to say. So now they have to ignore their breakup and this chemistry that they still have to try to save the town. I've heard this is just a cute, like I said, witchy good time, and I've seen a couple of different people that read this every fall Halloween season, so I would really love to know what the hype is about for this one. And it's been a little, like, I feel like I didn't read too many cutesy fall romances yet, even though I have a couple on my list, so very excited to get to add that one. I think we're on prompt number 6 now. Sounds about right. A fairy tale retelling. Okay. Definitely can work with that one, I think. So I did have to go outside of my fall TBR for this, unless if... Ooh, I didn't check my list of ones that I don't own yet. Let's see. See, no, I don't think any of these fit either. Yeah, so the one we went with is Sleep Like Death. I probably have other books that are based on fairy tales that I just don't realize that they are, but this one I knew was, and this is obviously the Fairy Loot edition. It's very, very pretty. This is about a young woman named Evie. She's the princess, raised with one purpose: to destroy the Knight, an evil sorcerer who terrorizes Queensbridge with his wicked magic. Far too many of her subjects have been devastated by the Knight's trickery, but Eve's own unique magic, the ability to conjure weapons from nature, makes her a worthy adversary. As she approaches her 17th birthday, she's ready to battle, but her mother, Queen Regina, has been acting strangely, talking to a weird mirror alone every night. Then a young man claiming to be the Knight's messenger appears and shares a shocking truth about Eve's past. Unsure of who to trust or what to do next, Eve must find the courage to fight. But will it be enough to save her family and her queendom? So apparently this author actually also has another novel called Cinderella is Dead, and that was like her debut book. And then of course this one is a sleeping, no, that's not right, a Snow White reimagining. So of course, like, cover kind of gives that away. But I'm excited for this. It's been a while since I've read like a fairy tale reimagining. I think the last time I did, it kind of didn't work the way that I wanted it to, so I'm a little nervous about that, but hopefully this one hits the mark. Oh, I've definitely seen, you can see like the cover for the other books that she's written, and I've definitely seen those before, so if I like this, I might have to dig into some of her other books, but that's not the point right now. So, last prompt, hopefully a really good one. A book someone else bought me. I can work with that as well. Okay, so we actually only have 2 in this stack, which was surprising to me, or at least that I remember. We have Flock and Everyone Here Is Lying. Flock is a dark romance, I believe, and it's, see, I always think I know the premise of this, and then I read the back and I'm like, I don't actually think I know the premise of this, but I think it's more like taboo romance, and that's what sort of makes this fall under the dark romance category. And then, of course, a thriller. This is like a fun mystery. I think I'm gonna pick this one. I'm gonna pick this one mainly because Flock is the beginning of a series and I don't want to start, like I said, I would really prefer to not continue to start series even though I keep doing it. So we're gonna pick this one. This says, Welcome to Stanhope, a safe neighborhood, a place for families. On the surface, William Wooler is a family man, but he's been having an affair that ended this afternoon at a motel up the road. When he returns to his house, devastated and angry to find his difficult 9-year-old daughter Avery unexpectedly home from school, William loses his temper. Hours later, Avery's family declares her missing. Suddenly, Stanhope doesn't feel so safe, and William isn't the only one on his street who's hiding a lie. As witnesses come forward with information that may or may not be true, his neighbors become increasingly unhinged. Who took Avery Wooler? Nothing will prepare you for the truth. So, it's a short, cute little, it's probably not going to be cute, that premise doesn't sound cute, but short little thriller. I've been kind of in a thriller mood recently. I read like 4 or 5 of them this past week, so I'm definitely here for that continuing, and I'm excited to see what this one brings, especially because it's so short. Like, I love that for me. So those are going to be all of the books that we pick from my prompts. Now I'll grab the ones that are kind of like my non-negotiables for the month. All right, so we have my non-negotiables for the month, and I just literally grabbed the next ones on the stack, so I don't know anything about these yet. We have My Hungarian Clark, which is the Sleeping Beauty Killer. So this is another one set in that Under Suspicion world where a TV show host, she has like this docuseries that digs into cold cases, brings them back to light, and starts interviewing people that were under suspicion in the original cold case. So this is about a woman 15 years prior who claimed to be sleeping when her fiance, a famed philanthropist, was murdered, but the jury didn't believe her. She still claims that she's innocent. Released after serving her 15-year sentence, she knows that as a convicted felon, she'll always live under suspicion. So she decides to go to this TV show host and be like, hey, can we reopen this? Because, like, I know I was convicted, but I shouldn't have been. Lori wants to help her. With Alex Buckley taking a break from the show, a new on-air host named Ryan Nichols has snagged his spot. Ryan, a young legal whiz with an impressive pedigree, has a big reputation and an attitude to match it. Ryan does everything he can to stop Lori from taking on Casey's case. He, alongside so many others, is certain Casey's guilty. But there's always more to the story, sleeping just below the surface. So that one sounds different from some of her other ones. Like, it's not normally somebody that's already been convicted that comes and asks for help, so could be an interesting premise for that one. Then we have my classic for the month, and like I said, I picked from the next in the stack, so I'm not super thrilled about this, but it's the Brothers Karamazov. Yeah, I'm not super thrilled about this. Heck. I read Crime and Punishment, more or less, in high school, and didn't really like that, but my English teacher my senior year was like, oh, I think you'd really like the Brothers Karamazov, so, because he knew I didn't like Dostoevsky's other work that I read, so he's like, you might like this one by him. We'll see. It's his last and greatest work, which I did not know. Apparently it tells the dramatic story of 4 brothers, Dmitri, Ivan, Alyosha, and I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce that last name. That's a really long Russian one that I'm just not going to try. Driven by intense passion, they become involved in the brutal murder of their own father, one of the most loathsome characters in all literature. Oh. Okay. Well, that's at least a fascinating premise. But then again, so is Crime and Punishment, and we just spent an ungodly amount of time with this person just riddled by his guilt, and like you knew what the whole moral of the story was very, very early. And this is like a 900-page book, so you best believe I'm listening to this on audio, and we'll see if I can actually get through that one, because I couldn't get through Crime and Punishment because I was like, this is just repetitive and unnecessary, and you're beating us to death with the point of this. Anyway, moving on. We have my Agatha Christie for the month, which is Remembered Death. It says, when lively, lovely Rosemary Barton died of cyanide-laced champagne at an elegant London nightclub, the coroner ruled it a suicide. But the anonymous letter put it quite differently. She was killed. And suddenly a shocking array of motives comes to light. Now a bereaved husband turns a reckless avenger, and he's hosting another party, a trap to catch a killer. Once again, the uninvited guest is murder. Okay, that's a fun one. I don't think I've read an Agatha Christie that's set at a party. Like, she does a lot of sort of closed room style mysteries where it's like, it's everybody in this house or everybody on this island, but it's never been everybody at this party. So I'm curious to see how she does a party scene. That'll be fun. Okay. All right. So that is the 10 books on my list for the month. I also have one for like a book club that I'm part of, but to my knowledge, that hasn't been decided yet. Let me double check, but I don't believe we know what that book is going to be as of right now. So yeah, like the poll for that is not completely done yet, so I'm not going to say what that book will be because a couple of them are really close. So that is my set TBR for November. As of right now, I think it's a pretty good stack, so we'll go through it really quick. We've Remembered Death, Brothers Karamazov, Giddy for Me, The Sleeping Beauty Killer, Everyone Here is Lying, Sleep Like Death, The Ex-Hex, The Rays, The Forest Where the Phoenix Sleeps, and The Night and the Moth. So really good fantasy lineup in this going on, which is great for this time of year. So hopefully it'll be a good month before we get into some of the Christmassy reads. So fingers crossed. Anyway, thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far, and hopefully I'll see you in another video very soon. Bye guys.